Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the DLF Trade Show on the DLF YouTube channel. Russ Fisher at Dynasty Outhouse. I almost called you Jonathan, which was really weird. Jonathan Hayes. Is there a guy or a person named Jonathan Hayes that I don't know? Or maybe I do know and don't remember that I know. If you're
sure there
Jonathan Hayes
is.
and you're listening to this, hey. But that's Addison Hayes at AmazeHayes_. I might just call you Jonathan for the rest of the show. But we are here. Last week we did trades for 23 picks, 23 first and seconds. When you get to thirds, it's like, sure, whatever. But two things. First of all, chances are your league allows you to trade 2 years out. So 24 picks should be on the table. And if they don't, do that. Ask that for a league change suggestion for next season. It helps trading a whole lot. You can still do the person has to buy that year, pay that year's whatever for spending the first or whatever makes you happy. I just think it really, really, really helps trading, especially in a year like this, where the 23 class has been hyped for about 2 years now. So you'll have a couple of leagues where lock and keyed on a couple of teams where maybe they have 2 or 3 and they are not moving them for the life of them. Pivoting to 24 picks, which also is said to be going a very good class as well. And of course, we're so far out, who knows? But Devi people know. They do their research. They've been able to see the 23 class coming for a while now. Same thing with the 21 class and the 2020 class. I get that things change. Keyshawn Boutte decided to stay back. Etienne and Harris both stayed back in 2020. Things like that happen. A draft class is bigger than 3 to 4 people. I mean, that's just the reality to it. So 24 class should be very good as well. So I wanted to do this show also to help see if you think it's the right move to push your rebuild down or honestly spread it out a little bit. I don't know the trades Addison put on here, but I think at some point, especially right before rookie drafts happen, I want to see some 23 first for 24 first plus what to get to move back and forth. That's a tease and just saying it out loud so Addison remembers, because I won't remember.
So do you want to hear a fun fact before we get into it?
I would love to hear a fun fact before we get into it.
Jonathan Hayes is a former NFL tight end who was drafted in the second round by the Kansas City Chiefs and played for the Chiefs for 9 years and the Steelers for 3, and then was on Marvin Lewis's Bengals staff as a coach, then became the head coach of the Battlehawks in the XFL a couple years ago, and is now currently the offensive coordinator for the Dallas Renegades in the XFL.
I will pretend that's who I meant to be talking about.
And his son is in the NBA, was the 8th overall pick by the Atlanta Hawks.
Jeez.
3 years ago.
Athletic family, I guess.
Jonathan Hayes.
Why couldn't my dad pass down athleticism to me? Well, I guess he didn't have any on his own, so I guess he couldn't pass it down to me. Story for another day, if even. Okay, let's move on. So we're talking about 24 picks, and the first position we always talk about is quarterbacks. And since we're talking about trading in quarterbacks, we're talking about Superflex. First league trade. There you go. The first trade, 12-team Superflex. Geno Smith and a 24 second for a 24 first. Here's the thing. What is it with what happened with Geno? Is Geno Smith good now? Is Pete Carroll's system that quarterback friendly? What? Okay, but that's not the point. The point is, if there's a player that is in that weird spot, which Geno Smith is, in between a first and a second, Ramondre Stevenson to me is there as well, and I'm sure we'll come up to a couple of other players as we go down. I will almost always add a second to move up to a first. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the thing. If they're not the same team, that could be 4 or 5 picks. It could be 2 picks. It doesn't matter because, first of all, 24 draft is far away, but there is such a psychological difference between seeing that 1 in front and seeing that 2 in front that paying up that little extra 4 to get that 1 is completely worth it. And this case, I agree. Geno Smith, they're talking about extending him or working his contract so he's going to be the starter next year, even though the Seahawks are going to moonwalk into the 2nd pick overall. And it's Geno Smith is a terrible idea. But but this is perfect to me. Like this, I don't think you're sending Geno Smith for a first on no matter the year, maybe 25 first, but let's not get crazy. So adding a second to me is completely perfect because everything I said before. I don't need to say it all again. Like I really like this, and I got to be honest. He has a really good schedule the rest of the season. So if that's my 24 first, and I'm pretty good contender into the playoffs, and I just lost Kyler, I would do this without thinking.
Yeah,
like,
I think that
get that second back too. Sorry.
no, yeah, no, that's like a perfect point. Is I feel like that's kind of the situation that you found yourself in if you're making this kind of trade. Is you just lost Kyler Murray, maybe you just lost Russell Wilson. That's a really weird sentence to say if you're competing and you had Russell Wilson this year.
You lost him a long time ago.
That's true. That's true. But I think that's probably one of the only situations where I would find myself making this kind of move because, yeah, it's a 24 first, and in a vacuum, I would take the first. But if you're in that unique situation, I would feel comfortable with that because, like you said, at least with Geno, you're getting back end QB1 or top end QB2 production for probably the remainder of the season, and then has the opportunity for him to have a little bit more longevity than a lot of other quarterbacks. Like you're not paying a 24 first for Tom Brady, who might get you the production now, but is he going to retire? You're not paying it for Aaron Rodgers. Is he QB6 right now?
Points per game. Yeah.
That's insane. So QB1 production from Geno Smith with a little bit of longevity. I could see the only other couple of players that come to mind that you could probably do this with is like Jared Goff, who I think also has more longevity. It might honestly be cheaper than if doing this. You might not have to have paid the 24 first. But if this is what it takes for you to continue being competitive in the playoffs this year, it's not the end of the world because, and you need to get that second back. I'm not spending a 24 first for Geno straight up, but getting that second back, like you said, if you can talk yourself into it, if that's your first and it's 110 to 112 in 2 years, and that second is an early second, then that might only be 5-6 picks of a difference. And you got Geno Smith as a rental for the remainder of the year. Possibly we could see what he does next year. And you're probably not mad at it at the end of the day.
So he's QB6, and he is, I mean, there's a lump of people in that 22-ish points per game, the 22, 21. The first four, Mahomes, Allen, Hurts, Allen, Burrow are 25 and up. And then there's a 3-point drop down to 22, and then it's Justin Fields and Geno Smith. Now, here's my question. Let's pretend Pete Carroll comes out and goes, oh, wait, the Broncos were bad this year. We have the 102. We're drafting a quarterback. Would you still do this trade, knowing that you're probably not getting Geno for next year at all unless something weird like a trade or the rookie not being good or whatever? Like, would you do it just for these 3 games? This exact trade, like getting the second back as well?
No, because the reason why it makes it okay for me in my head to spend the first is because I believe there's that longevity attached to it. A little bit more longevity than just the remainder of the year. So if you're telling me we're looking into our crystal ball and we know that the Seahawks are drafting younger Stroud at the 1.02, then I'm not making this deal. I'm just going to go, like I said, I would go pay for Goff. I'd pay for freaking Desmond Ridder for like a second and instead of, paying up for Geno.
Imagine having the self-confidence, to just avoid other words, to go into the playoffs and starting Desmond Ridder. Wow. See, here's the thing. I think I would do this even if I didn't think or know that Geno wasn't playing next year, because I would do this for Derrick Henry or other running backs, even maybe not even getting a second back with them. But like, if you're competing, you think you're having the 112 and the team you're trading with most likely didn't make the playoffs, or they're, I don't know, like held on to him as a QB3 for that long. Regardless, chances are it's not going to be as late as yours, in which case you're probably moving back 6 picks. So I would pay 6 picks to go get the QB6 for a couple of games.
Maybe. A lot can happen between now and what you think might be a 112 in 2024 as well. So I just, the risk.
Oh,
The
oh,
risk is
absolutely. No, this is
crawling under
absolutely
my
like
skin.
light years of hypotheticals.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. This next trade is a weird one. Deshaun Watson for Javonte Williams, a 24 first, and Aaron Rodgers. That's really the part that got me. Like, how does Aaron Rodgers fit into this? Like, I guess if I'm competing and I've held on to Deshaun Watson, and then I see this happening, and I'm like, oh, well, let me try and get something back. Let's see what I can get. And like I said, 23 picks are probably on lockdown. So you get Javonte Williams, who maybe comes back next year, and towards the end of the year, like, look how good Dobbins looks last week. That was like very fulfilling for me, and made me feel a little better in the long run for Javonte. But like, so maybe like by the end of the season, you get Javonte Williams. Aaron Rodgers is probably still playing next year, in which case he'll be a solid QB2, depending on where he goes. And then you get a 24 first on top. I mean, I am clearly biased when it comes to Deshaun Watson, but I mean, I know it's compiled value because it's 3-for-1, but I mean, it's 827 to 615. So I mean, that is the 24 first almost on side extra for Deshaun Watson.
I don't want Aaron Rodgers.
I don't want Aaron Rodgers or Javonte Williams, to be honest, but I think the value is there. Like, I would do this and then go flip Aaron Rodgers for a strong second and call it a day.
That's probably honestly the best move to make here. I 100% get doing this deal just because you're like, I recognize the value that I'm receiving back for Deshaun Watson makes sense to do this trade. And then you can try to make further trades down the road for pieces that you would actually want. Like you said with Rodgers for a second, I would much rather do that. Rodgers' production this year is garbage. He's averaging less than half points per game more than Russell Wilson right now. So if that doesn't tell you, at least what I was looking at.
Like, to be fair, he is a top 24 quarterback in points per game.
Yeah. He's averaging fewer points per game than Jimmy Garoppolo. So
23. He's QB 23 in points per game with 17.3.
Gross.
Not great. Fair.
So,
and the thing is, even with the Christian Watson breakout, his scores aren't getting better.
Well, because he's missing his true wide receiver one in Romeo Doubs. So
I know, weird, right? Like, come on, Dobbs, come on, get better.
Yeah, I think this is a fair price to go and get Deshaun Watson if you believe Deshaun Watson is going to become a top 5 dynasty quarterback again. Maybe not this year, but give him a full year in the system with Kevin Stefanski and the Browns, all that kind of stuff, and actually shaking some of the rust off that he looks really rusty right now. So if Watson can return, if you believe that Watson's going to return to Houston Texans, Deshaun Watson with a better offense in the Cleveland Browns, then this is absolutely a price that I would be willing to pay right now to go and get that. But on the other side, if you're kind of like, you know what, there's a lot of other quarterbacks out there that might be better than Deshaun Watson, a little bit younger, a little bit more productive, and you don't see top 5, you see back end top 10, like a Dak Prescott range, then I think this is probably a good trade, especially if you believe Javonte is going to come back and, do what J.K. Dobbins did this past week to the Steelers and more. You get the 24 first, you get a starting quarterback. So it's not terrible.
I didn't really stop to consider it until you started talking about, actually going to acquire Watson for all of this. To send away Javonte Williams at 24 first and Aaron Rodgers, none of losing those pieces does not affect you for a long time.
No.
I mean, Javonte is going to be benched for a while. The 24 first isn't for another year. And Aaron Rodgers wasn't scoring you points. So, okay, who cares? Like, that is a lot of future problems to worry about in the future. And you have a guy who, again, with now the end of the season to shake the rust off, and then an entire offseason, preseason, and all of that, can look much better. So we move on to running backs with a 12-team Superflex league where DeAndre Swift and Kenneth Gainwell. Why would you give up Kenneth Gainwell? Come on. For a 24 first and Donovan Peoples-Jones. Why would you give up Donovan Peoples-Jones? Okay, so Swift for a 24 first. DeAndre Swift 477, a 24 first is 257, and Gainwell and DPJ are both under 50, so it doesn't really matter. I want the first.
No, Russ. No.
Okay, so here's the thing. I so badly wanted DeAndre Swift to do really well this past weekend because he put up 20 something points the week before, and if he did it now, his value would be good again. And then people would have a much easier time trading him away. He did very poorly in a very high scoring game. That's bad for a receiving back. It's not good. Yeah. Now, would I trade DeAndre Swift for a 24 first if I had DeAndre Swift on my team? No. Honestly, I would probably send a 24 first to go get DeAndre Swift, thinking that I could probably do something better with him at some point. But I really just don't want DeAndre Swift on my team.
I still believe I'm taking Swift.
By all means, should be better than that, man. Like DeAndre Swift should be Josh Jacobs from like 2 years ago. That very solid like RB 8 to 10. Not what he's doing this year, because that's definitely not what Swift can do. But like, at least just play style wise, especially. But like, to me, that's Swift was. Swift was like a RB1 with the ceiling to go nuts if the game just broke the right way, because of how good he can catch the ball and what he could do after he does. And it's not that he's a bad runner or anything. He's good. He's a good runner of the football, but PPR, we get our points out of passing, but Lions don't seem to care. I mean, that's really what it was. Like what it is. Like DeAndre Swift is worth more, but I don't want him on my teams. So let's move to 12-team one quarterback, where Dameon Pierce and a 24 third got traded for a 24 first, and Tyrion Davis Price has value in the analyzer, which is cool for him. This is a little shocking. Dameon Pierce comes in at 479. That's a lot. Like, that's DeAndre Swift. I get it's super flex and 1 QB, so it's the scale is different. No, it's not, because they always keep their point numbers equal, because a pick is worth the same points both ways. It's just the relationship to when everyone else is. That's a lot of points.
He's a top 10 Dynasty running back right now for ADP.
No, that's wrong. I would take any first for Dameon Pierce right now.
Yeah, I agree. Especially right now. I get this trade was made before the high ankle sprain, so he's probably done for the year.
Well, I mean, 3 weeks, it's 15, 16. Yeah. Even still, like, even without the injury, even if he was playing for the rest of the season, especially if I don't want to start him the rest of the season. I get that he.
Well, I wouldn't either, because he's not going to play. But yeah,
I was just saying if he was, you jerk. My favorite draft notes on Dameon Pierce was from Zach Reed at Tested Assassin 13. He equated Dameon Pierce running to Drax at the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy 2, where he runs at that giant monster, runs like into his mouth, and just starts doing this. Like, that's literally Dameon Pierce running. He just lowers a shoulder and will try and knock over everyone in his place. Doesn't look where he's going, but the thing is, he's powerful enough to knock over a dude or two. But that's really it. Like, first of all, runners like that have never really had longevity in this league. Like, remember Marion Barber, guys like that.
That too.
Like, it was too much. And that team is going to be changing. And sticking with a guy at running back doesn't matter. No less their offense is so bad that if he doesn't score a touchdown for you, you're boned. Like, so easily right now, a first. And it sucks that it's 24 and not 23. But again, that 24 pick is going to gain value, and gain value fast. Like, the second the 23 draft is over, the 24 picks are turning into what 23 picks were.
It's not even, you look at his production, and it's not even all that great. Like, he was about to run for over 1,000 yards and be, quote unquote, the most productive rookie running back in this class because of
everyone else got hurt.
Injuries. But yeah, so he was gonna do all that stuff, and that's I said all that at the beginning of the year too. I was like, he could literally run for 1,000 yards, and because he plays on the Houston Texans and doesn't catch a large number of passes, he is not going to be elite for fantasy. He is the RB20 in points per game
Wow,
as a 1,000 yard, as a should have been 1,000 yard rusher.
that's even worse than I thought.
It's it's I don't understand why everybody loves Dameon Pierce so much outside of the people that were like, I was right on him as a rookie and a day 3 pick, but there's just so many red flags that I would take a 2025 first for Dameon Pierce. Probably not anything after that because you shouldn't be trading anything after that, but a 24 first for Dameon Pierce is so easy right now, and I don't understand the difference in value between the two. But I would have taken that first at any point at all during the year.
We move on to wide receiver, where, ooh, this is a little spicy. DeAndre Hopkins for a 24 first. I assume this was before Kyler got hurt.
Yeah.
Oh no, I traded for Hopkins in one of my competing. Oh well. All right. Well, okay. Yes, the answer is, should you do this? And honestly, I think I would. If it was a 23 pick, I would only trade a second. You probably maybe have to send 2 seconds. But if it's a 24 pick, I don't hate sending a 24 first to go get what DeAndre Hopkins would have been had Kyler not got hurt. Like, just since specifically it's really tough to talk about this now, like equate DeAndre Hopkins to another player, that's a little up there in age, but scoring very good points. I mean, just shift it over to Hollywood if you want, even though he's not many active wide receivers are as aged as Hopkins, and we're not paying a 24 first for Julio Jones. So, but yeah, like I think this is very along the lines of that Geno Smith trade, where you are renting a guy for your championship run.
Would you do this for Keenan, who just had 12 for 92?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That's like Keenan and Devontae Adams I know Adams' production has been really high, but his value has been really low, especially compared to
and then he goes and at least he got, like, it's funny. Like, I don't know why I stick to double digits as such a barrier of like competency in fantasy football, even though it's completely arbitrary. Like, I was like, thankfully Devontae Adams scored double digits. I'm like, he scored 10 points. That's not good. But like,
it just looks nicer.
It looks a little nicer that there's that extra number in there. Like, oh, what a bad game last week. I'm just glad it didn't actually cost me anything. But yes, absolutely. If there is a guy who is on the older side, yeah, Keenan is the perfect example. Especially if Mike Williams keeps not playing and stuff like that. Which, even if he does play, sadly he'll be hurt in 30 seconds.
Well, he had 12 for 92 with Mike Williams still playing.
I know, but
they're both wide receiver ones this past week, which I think the Chargers are just going to have to throw a whole bunch anyway.
Oh yeah, so, I mean, that's what's great about Austin Eckler is he barely runs the ball anymore, but he still gets 12 targets again.
They're just going to throw 50 times, and
yeah,
we'll be all good.
Okay, the next one is interesting. Michael Pittman for 24 first and Zay Jones. I hate Zay Jones.
Wow.
Because there was a flip that was switched about 3-ish weeks ago where Zay Jones became the target guy in Jacksonville over Christian Kirk. And honestly, like, I've liked Zay Jones as a player since he came into the league. I always thought he was pretty good. And, he had some personal problems at the very beginning. And then he went to the Raiders and it was just like, okay, this could work. And then the Raiders were the Raiders. And I don't know if anyone really expected. Oh man, remember that time he like got up by just his toes? Go look that up if you don't know what I'm talking about. It's not human. I really like Michael Pittman. I really, 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 really like Michael Pittman. It's now, and when he did really good with Carson Wentz, I'm like, okay, so he doesn't need a great quarterback to do that. He can do really well without a good quarterback because Carson Wentz, mediocre at best. Matt Ryan, mediocre at best. Did not do very well this year. So I'm a little more worried now than I was coming into this season because it wasn't necessarily even Pittman's fault. That offense just got really bad. So would I see, here's the thing. What he's young. That's my thing. Like, if I wanted to get out on Pittman, okay, I just thought of, okay, here's my scenario. I'm a competing team. I have Michael Pittman on my team, especially if this was done before this past weekend when Pittman still had his bye coming. If I could have moved Michael Pittman for Zay Jones, who was scoring points and a decent amount of them, and get a first on top, I just became a competing team with an extra first for no reason. And yes, next season, there's a chance I might get screwed over on this because I'm still, well, Calvin Ridley coming back. They have to draft a wide receiver also. So that's going to get more crowded. But like right now, I'm like strutting. Like I just replaced points pretty much similarly between the two players. They're 2 years apart in age. And Zay Jones, to me at least, is on the better offense with, I'm going to guess, a better quarterback, depending on whoever the quarterback is next year in Indianapolis. And then you get a 24 first. Like, I kind of might want to check my leagues for something like this now, like even on my competing teams, to see if I can pull something like this off. I did, however, recently send Michael Pittman to go get Josh Jacobs, and I felt weird about it. How do you not trade for Josh Jacobs on a competing team?
His playoff schedule, but
it's terrible. I don't care. Josh Jacobs. They're going to give him the ball anyway because they don't have anyone else besides Devontae Adams.
I pulled up Michael Pittman's splits with and without Matt Ryan this year, and he's averaging 6 more PPR points per game with Matt Ryan than without him. So your answer is as long as his quarterback is not Sam Ehlinger, like he's averaging almost 15 points per game with Matt Ryan.
And it's really funny is the wrong word, clearly, but like it came in waves. He did really pretty well at the beginning, and then there was like that bad Jonathan Taylor stretch of weeks like 3 through until like 3 weeks ago. The entire offense wasn't good, and Pittman was pulling single digits again. See, there's that arbitrary line I draw, and now like and every once in a while he does well again. I think Pittman's value is more than the production you will steadily get out of him. I love the idea of having him on my teams if he's like my wide receiver 3, 4, 5, and you have to pay more for that now. So he would have to have been sitting on my team for a while. But I really, really, really like switch Zay Jones for Keenan Allen, let's just say. Maybe you have to throw a second or a third in, but I still think that's a beautiful move, especially if it's Keenan Allen, because Keenan Allen is still going to be on the Chargers next year. He is still going to be catching passes from Justin Herbert. I would assume they draft another wide receiver, but it doesn't matter. It's Keenan freaking Allen. He doesn't need speed. He's that good of a route runner that he's going to be in the slot for another couple of years. And then you get that first. I'm absolutely going to screw up one of my teams by trying to do this and doing it really wrong, but it sounds like fun.
I don't think it's the worst thing in the world for Michael Pittman, for sure. I think you're just basically shifting value between the two assets, because I don't think Pittman is the wide receiver that I think a lot of people expected him to be as the breakout third-year wide receiver this year. You know, like what we saw from like Calvin Ridley or Chris Godwin when they broke out. I think we see Michael Pittman be DJ Moore or Deontay Johnson. That's essentially, I think,
I'm there for that.
The area where he's living in.
Yeah.
And I think that's worth more than a 24 first. But at the same time, I'm not going to
first.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm not going to fault anybody for saying, you know what? I feel like that production, like you said, can be largely replaced to where I'm going to try to hit the reset button with a 24 first and see if I can get a wide receiver or a running back who has a higher ceiling. You know, just like basically try to see if I could re-roll the dice and get something a little bit better than Michael Pittman, because worst case scenario, maybe you just get Michael Pittman back in another form, you know?
Yeah.
That's kind of what you're going for. So yeah.
Okay, we move over to tight ends, and we have some interesting. Okay. I think I just saw what you were talking about, but we're not there yet. Tight ends, 12-team Superflex tight end premium. TJ Hawkinson for 24 first and second. No, 24 first and 23 second. TJ Hawkinson 287. The picks at 24 first is 257, and a 23 second is 134. Total of 391. Okay, so tight end premium, depending on what the premium is, here's my thing. Is Mark Andrews good still?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I'll take your word for it. It's Travis Kelce, and then it's the rest of the league. It used to be Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Darren Waller. At least Kyle Pitts' value used to be up there, and then still the rest of the league. And right below that, Kelce and Andrews was like this chunk of players, of tight ends, where you felt good starting them every week. Like, to me, this is where like the Goddards and Freiermuths live, where, again, arbitrary line. Well, I mean, it's not really arbitrary of double digits in a tight end, because a top 12 tight end could be one catch for 12 yards and a touchdown. So if you can guarantee double digits every week, that feels really good. Hockenson, to me, on the Vikings is that tier below now. I wanted him to work his way into that tier. I was hoping and praying. And last season was when I'm like, nope, didn't happen. It's not going to happen. But then he moves over to the Vikings, and all of a sudden he's at like 9 targets every single game and doing something with a lot of them. I like Hockenson on the Vikings. Kirk Cousins, more importantly, likes Hockenson on the Vikings. So I do this, I think. I probably start off just by sending a 24 first for Hockenson. And if they come back asking for a 23 second on top, if I'm a competing team, I don't think I let that stop me.
So yeah, I should have added in where that pick was. It's the 212, or
Oh,
at least
without
the
even
person
thinking
is in
about it.
first place right now, heading into the playoffs. So
made that even easier. On the other hand, I would probably also take this to trade away Hockenson, because, like I said before, fine, I'll still put Andrews in there because you say he's still good. It's Kelce and Andrews, and then it's the rest of the world. So I don't care about tight ends at that point because I don't have those guys. So I would take a first and a second for a tight end.
That's more along the lines of where I lean, of where I think if you're getting this kind of price for any of that group, Hockenson, Goddard, Freiermuth, Schultz, I think you have to cash out. And then I think you just try to get one of those other guys for cheaper.
Go get Gerald Everett.
Yeah, or David Njoku or whoever, or try to see if you can pick up a Cole Kmet or Daniel Bellinger or somebody like that, and pray that they then enter that tier at some point next year or something like that. I can't imagine seeing this trade in my inbox and not sending TJ like just hitting reject on that and keeping TJ Hockenson. Yeah.
But also, I think if you send this trade and you get TJ Hockenson for 24 first and 23 second, I think you can get very similar price the second the season's over. Like, I still think you can get a first plus a little bit for TJ Hockenson.
In premium, sure, yeah.
Yeah, like, it might be not as great. Like, maybe you have to talk, I mean, even if you're getting a 24 first and 24 second, it's a little bit of a downgrade, but like, I still think you get that, even if you have to add a third.
Right.
I'm fine with that. Last-ish trade, maybe? Yep, because I don't have anything in... well, I have trades in my inbox. I just don't like them, and I don't want to talk about them. 12-team Superflex. This is a trade. On one side, 2 23 late firsts and 2 24 firsts for Kyle Pitts and T. Higgins. Kyle Pitts, 500. T. Higgins, 493, a total of 993. Late 23 firsts are 265, 24 firsts are 257 for a total of 1,044.
I was wondering if that was gonna be if 4 firsts were enough to.
I think this is right. Like a late first, like since the 23s are late, you have to add at least another first. I don't think I would be surprised to see a late 23 first and a 24 first for either of these players. I think there should be more, especially because it's just picks. When it's just picks for, it's hard to call Pitts a stud, but his value is stud-like. You shouldn't, like, doing it just for picks is scary. I want a little more coming back, even if it was just like one player in there that I happen to like and was like a good young player. But at any given point, I think you can do whatever you want with these players also. Like I would rather just have these players on my team and not have these firsts spread out like this. If one of them was, call it like the 104, 105, that might change my tune. But like I'm picturing the 110 and 112 and then 224 firsts. That's too late. The hit rate on that is way too low, even in a class like this. I would need one of them to be earlier. I need something that feels safer, something that has more of a peak value, because this literally is just two for ones. There's no matching peak value. These are two guys worth 500 for two things worth 250 each. It's just okay.
Mm-hmm. It's the point that you made about it's just being picks and you need something a little bit more secure, I think is 100% accurate, because you could say to yourself, I'm getting 2 firsts in 2023 in a deep, really good 2023 class. I'm going to hit on both those picks, right? That's going to be it. Or, you know, like I was looking back at 2021. So I didn't want to do 2022. We knew that class sucked. But I just went back to 2021. You, with those late picks, you could have taken Rashad Bateman and Elijah Moore.
Or too late first, it could have been Devonta Smith and Jalen Waddle.
It could have also been that. But, you know, there's so many different combinations where, yeah, maybe one of them hits and the other one's a bust. Maybe both of them are a bust. Maybe both of them are a hit. We really don't know. It's all just dependent on how good you are as a drafter and also kind of the draft board itself.
It's not even on people. There's a lot of luck because there's so many external factors. You know, some players are very good. They just don't translate. Some players go through personal stuff. Some players just get injured. You know, like yes, clearly there is skill involved in drafting the right players. And so I don't want to make it seem like I'm not saying that, but it's not just that. I feel better. And that to me is a big part of it. Looking at my team, seeing those two players, then seeing those picks. And chances are, I get a lot of questions about, I have like 6 picks in this coming draft. What do I do with them? And my answer is always, you know, you wait till you get there usually, but use half, trade half. Because drafting with all of them is insanely dangerous. Like there's so much risk in that. There's risk in drafting in general. Hit rates are not very good. But you want to draft. That's half the point. It's fun. Like you want to plant your flag in a couple of players. You want, you know, to be able to say, I drafted this guy, just like the whole Dameon Pierce thing we were talking about before. But like if I have the 110 and the 111 or whatever it is, I pick a guy I really like in there, draft him at the 110, and then I trade away the 111. Like that's probably what I would have ended up doing if I had all of these. But still, like, again, I would just feel better looking at my team with those 2 players on them, especially since it's those specific 2 players.
Yep. Yeah. Whatever you want, have fun with your team and choose the side that you would want on here. Because I don't think there's a wrong answer. I just
you could have a boat.
Which one do you prefer?
Or you could have a mystery box. Mystery box could be anything. It could even be 2 boats.
Oh.
Yes. On that note, this has been another episode of the DLF Trade Show on the DLF YouTube channel. Russ Fisher at Dynasty Ad House, Addison Hayes at AmazeHayes_. We will catch you next time.